Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Odds Now's YouTube channel for the final preview of the group stages. You can see by the title of this video, we're focusing today on Group F, which features Portugal. I think one of the stronger sides in the tournament, Matt, alongside Turkey, Czech Republic, and Georgia. As you can see, I'm joined on screen by Matt Hill, who is the expert of this group. I think it's fair to say you've produced all the written content surrounding this group for our website, Odds Now. You can check all of that out over on oddsnow.com, and we'll also put links in the description to each of the individual team guides for the teams that are the subject of this video. Matt, it's an interesting group. I think Portugal, I'm sure we're both back as strong favourites, which we'll go into in a minute. But other than that, there are a few strong sides further down the group. I'll get the odds on screen down there at the bottom so you can see it. It's the odds for who's going to win the group and to win the tournament out of here as well. Do you want to talk us through the first side? I think we're going to focus on Portugal. Like I said, one of the stronger teams of the draws. What are you feeling around them heading into the tournament?
Yeah, well, cheers for having me, Brad. Really enjoyed doing these previews. Hopefully we can find some winners along the way as well. Got the best bets coming at the end. Yeah, Portugal, obviously red hot favourites for this group. And I think I'm getting a buzz around, maybe going to be the popular bet for this tournament among people here. They're fourth favourite in the outright market, so you're getting a bit more juice in the price than you do for England, France and Germany. But I think, if your average Premier League fan was to look at this Portugal squad, they would argue it's, as star-studded an 11 as anyone, really. Really loads of recognisable, established names in this team. A lot of quality in midfield and forward areas, and a bit of an embarrassment of riches in forward areas, actually. And there's parallels with Italy here as well. In Euro 2020, Italy went unbeaten, perfect record in their qualifying campaign. Portugal have done the same here, won 10 wins out of 10. I would just caveat that they had a particularly weak group in qualifying. So, it would have been a surprise to see them drop a lot of points in that group. But then again, to go 10 from 10 in any qualifying group is very impressive. Just for a bit of context, they went through with Slovakia, who was second, and then Luxembourg, Iceland, Bosnia, and Liechtenstein. So it was a particularly weak group, I think it's fair to say, but they still had to do the job and do the job they did. 36 goals scored in those 10 games and just 2 conceded. That is an absolutely overwhelming goal differential there. And, familiar faces at the top of the scoring charts, Cristiano Ronaldo there with 10 goals. And I think a lot of the focus with Portugal may well be around Ronaldo. Obviously moved to the Middle East. A lot of people saw that as a winding down of his career, almost accepting, that he maybe couldn't do it at the very, very top anymore. I'm not so sure about that. I think Ronaldo just likes to conquer new leagues, and he likes to, try different things, doesn't he? I mean, we saw, I think he, tries to separate himself from his old foe, Lionel Messi, as a man that can do it in every league and every, whereas Messi's always been Barcelona, and he had that stint at PSG, but it's fair to say he didn't hit the heights at PSG that he hit in Barcelona, and his MLS move is very much feels like a winding down, a sort of farewell tour in America, as we see a lot of players do. Ronaldo, on the other hand, he's been to Serie A, he's been to La Liga, he's been to the Premier League, he's been, and now the Middle East, it's like he's the face of the league. He's still in contention for top scorer in this league. He's trying to drive the standards forward. You often see videos of him, having little paps and getting upset with his teammates, getting upset with fans and stuff. So he still cares. He still wants to win. He's not lost that winning mentality. But it's an interesting conversation around Ronaldo at international level. There was a feeling that maybe the Portugal were building their team around him a little bit too much in recent years, and that he was an automatic starter, perhaps stagnating the progress of some of their younger players. Gonçalo Ramos, we saw come on to devastating effect in the last tournament, scored a hat-trick in the World Cup, burst onto the scene. Now, should he be leading the line for this team? Possibly. You have a lot of wide forwards there. And a lot of centre forwards who have been sort of shoved out wide to accommodate Ronaldo. So, we also know he comes with an ego. He does come as to be the main event and the star attraction. We know him and Bruno Fernandes have had sort of spats in the past over his Manchester United exit. That was all very hush-hush at the World Cup, though there's no problem here. But, there was footage of them sort of giving cold, icy stares to each other in the dressing room. So do they really get on? Is there a bit of a power dynamic issue there? obviously, we don't see that when things are going well. My slight worry for Portugal is if things go badly, will we start to see these frictions and frictions rise? Roberto Martinez is the man in charge. Somebody somebody once said to me, I'd love to have his agent. He does seem to keep falling up in the world of football management. Fair to say, since he was at Everton, he hasn't done a particularly fantastic job anywhere, but he seems to keep going up the way. He's a very nice bloke, Martinez, always speaks very well. I think he's well respected within the game, but you could definitely argue over whether he underachieved with that Belgium squad in his last job. A lot of people felt that they should have been winning a tournament or at least making a final, but they always flattered to deceive under him. And yet here he is with a very, very talented Portugal squad. I think you'd have to consider anything less than the semi-finals a failure with this squad, because they really do have an abundance of talent and quality. They'll be expecting to win this group. Very strong favourites there. Only 4-1 to reach the final. So that tells you, how the market sees their prospects. If they do top this group, they're going to avoid the France and England side of the draw. Theoretically, we all know things can go wrong there, but they'll end up on the side of the draw with Germany and the likes. It's very difficult to predict who they'll play in the last 16, because they'll play one of the third place sides if they win this group. And that can vary wildly, because they could end up playing, a Switzerland or a Slovenia from A and C, or they could end up playing an Italy or Croatia from Group B. So hard to know what kind of test they'll have in the last 16. As we'll come on to in my best bets, I do expect this team to go quite deep, but I do worry about them in, when they play top class opposition. I do worry about the Ronaldo effect and whether it sort of blow his top. And yeah, I have my worries about Roberto Martinez as well. So yes, I expect them to win this group. Yes, I think they'll put a few goals past, particularly Georgia, and maybe get shortened up in the betting to win it. But I think they might just fall short in the latter stages. But yeah, it's going to be a fun team to watch, because there's just so much talent there, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how they go.
Yeah, you've mentioned there about the embarrassment of riches. I think most of that is up top, at the top end of the pitch and attacking areas. You said that you expect them to get to those later stages, but ultimately come up short. I think they only conceded the 2 goals during qualifying, but as you said as well, it was a very weak group. How do you think they'll fare defensively, particularly whether it'll be an issue in this group or not remains to be seen, but certainly in those knockout stages? Talk us through the defensive aspect of the Portugal side.
Yeah, I do. It's hard to knock a team that have had such a flawless defensive record in qualifying. But like I say, I think you've got to factor in the quality of opposition there. They had a recent friendly with Slovenia, which they lost 2-0. So, that would be alarm bells there a little bit. Pepe is actually back in the international fold, the ageless Pepe. I think, most people would have thought he'd retire about 5 years ago, but he's still there sort of diving around like an idiot. And, nobody can fault his actual career. He's had an unbelievable career, but he does have some undesirable techniques, master of the dark arts, shall we say, to put it politely. But yeah, I mean, the fact that Pepe has come into the defence, credit to him, he's shown some fantastic form at club level in his homeland, but that would worry me a little bit. I'm not sure he's a Euros winning centre back at this stage of his career. But yeah, a lot of it will depend on who's available and who stays fit. João Cancelo and Diego Dallo are probably likely to line up at fullback. They're both class acts. Ruben Diaz is another one whose career has gone a little bit off grid for Premier League fans, but he's very capable. So I'm not worried about them defensively per se, but I don't think they're as solid as England, France, and Germany at the back. I think they're susceptible to errors there. I think there's maybe a little bit of a lack of pace there, and I would worry about them in the latter stages at the back. But yeah, I think my main worry about Portugal is the personality dynamics in this group, whether there's going to be clashes when things aren't going well. We might hear a few noises coming out of the camp of I don't know, like Ronaldo storming off in training or Fernandes throwing a pap or something. And they've got a lot of highly charged players in there as well. And I do wonder if this is the kind of team where you could get a red card in a big knockout game, just somebody just losing their head a little bit. Reading this morning about Euro 2024 referees have been urged to use yellow cards when anyone but the captain confronts them. Well, Ronaldo and Fernandes are both two players, and Pepe, who like to get in and around the referee. So, would you be surprised to see Portugal getting a red card or two? Absolutely not. I think they're going to be a team that when they're playing an inferior opponent, they're going to look really impressive. But in a tighter game, I do have my reservations, it must be said. But look, going to be a fantastic team to watch. Hopefully Martinez just plays a little bit more with the handbrake off than he did with Belgium, and we get to see some really good attacking football. And of course, Ronaldo will be hungry to follow up that top scorer that he got at Euro 2020 and show that he's not finished just yet.
Yeah, I think we said similar things about Belgium as well, didn't we, the other day when we were discussing their prospects in the group. We'll move on to now the second team in this group, which is Turkey. I think they topped their group during qualifying, I think ahead of Croatia. Matt, do you want to talk us through them as well and what you expect from them? They always seem to be a side, Turkey, in the past where people have spoken about dark horse, the team to watch. They haven't quite delivered, particularly at the European Championships. But what do you expect from them this time around?
Yeah, I think fair to say that they were a bit of a letdown at the last tournament. Didn't score a goal, if I remember correctly. 3 losses, and that was, as you say, quite rightly, tipped by many as dark horses to go well. They always have that kind of profile, Turkey, because, they have quite a strong domestic league in the Super League, not one of the top 3 or 4, but it's not far off. We see a lot of sort of Premier League and players go there for the later end of their careers. So there's definite quality there. And they have traditionally produced a lot of talented players. I think it's fair to say there was a bit of a lull in the production line recently. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, the captain, has been fantastic for Inter Milan this season, probably had the best season of his club career to date. He is 30 now, so it's taken a little bit of time for him to really sort of hit his true potential. He's going to be very key for this side because it's quite a youthful squad, but packed with talent. And, I'm really excited to see Arda Guler, who's been a revelation at the back end of the season for Real Madrid. A lot of hype around the young guy when he signed for Real. His first season's kind of been battered by injury, unfortunately, but he scored 5 goals in his last 5 games after returning for Madrid, and some fantastic goals in there if you go and watch some highlights of his recent performances. So, a real natural talent there will probably hover around in attacking midfield or off one of the flanks, and he's going to be a real player to watch. If Turkey were to get to the quarter-final stage, he might be getting himself in the conversation for young player of the tournament. I could see him having a breakout tournament. Obviously, he's had fitness issues, which is always a concern with young players. Will they be able to handle the games one after another of high intensity, high expectation? And there is a lot of expectation on Guler's shoulders as well because of his profile to be at Real Madrid at 19. Of course, in his home country, he's revered and really well thought of. They have as well Kenan Yildiz as well, who's at Juventus, a very speedy sort of winger attacking midfielder. He's had a very impressive season at Juventus as well. So a lot of onus on them too. The big question for Turkey has been who's going to play through the middle for them. They haven't really got an obvious first choice centre forward. I think the feeling was going to be that it was going to be Enes Ünal, who Premier League fans may remember from Bournemouth. He's had a steady first season in the Premier League, just made that move permanent. He's no spring chicken. He's 27, but he's been a bit of a late bloomer, and he's a talented player. Unfortunately, he's just suffered a broken toe in the last few days, so he's not going to take any part in the tournament. It looks like they may revert to Cenk Tosun up top, who, a lot of people will recall for a spell at Everton recently. Pretty unremarkable striker, to be honest. I mean, Turkey traditionally have had Burak Yilmaz up front, a fantastic target man, really powerful centre forward with an unbelievable goal record. He has finally retired. I think he's about 41. He's only just retired. So it could be Cenk Tosun up front. That would be a little bit of a downgrade for me. Yeah, it does have good hold-up play, but there's going to be a big onus on those 2 youngsters, Yildiz and Guler to provide the goals, I think. So, potentially some value in the team top scorer market there. Çalhanoğlu, as I say, is going to be so key for this team. He initially broke through as an attacking midfielder. He's now very much a number 6, sits right in front of the back line, dictates the play, has a fantastic passing range, and he's arguably the best set-piece taker at this tournament. His corner delivery is fantastic. He's got a YouTube highlight reel of free kicks to rival anybody, and he was 10 from 10 on penalties this season for Inter Milan as well. So I wouldn't put you off him in the team top scorer market either. Look, the summary for this Turkey team is it's all going to go down to confidence. It's a young group. It's a relatively new manager in Vincenzo Montella, Italian, who did, okay in Serie A in a few different stints. He did quite well in Turkey. He's now got the national job. He's only had been here for 6 games, and they won those first 3 games really impressively. They beat Croatia, they beat Germany. Great start to his thing. Unfortunately, they lost 2 March friendlies, 1-0 to Hungary, and then 6-1 to Austria. Alarm bells ringing there. And in only his 6th match, he was asked by a Turkish journalist if he would consider resigning from his role. So, if things don't go well here, the knives could be out for Montella quite quickly. Not an ideal result when you're preparing for a tournament. And that just maybe hints to me that the confidence is fragile in this group. Some fantastic talent, and if it goes well, it goes really well. But this is maybe why we saw them finish with 0 points at the World Cup, because there's just maybe a lack of experience in the spine, and that does worry me. But they've got that first game. I think they play Georgia in their first game, and if they get off to a good start there, and the confidence is flowing, they get basically a free hit against Portugal, where they could play on the counter attack with Yildiz and Guler and maybe cause an upset, and then the whole tournament looks different for them. But yeah, I think this is a team that could either go really well or completely blow up. So quite a volatile team and a dangerous one to try and predict.
Yeah, I was just looking at who their first game was, and I saw it was Georgia, and I think they're probably the weaker side out of the 4. And like you said, there's an opportunity there to get a strong start. But imagine if they were to drop points in that game, and then you speak about the backdrop there, about the talks of him resigning after 6 games. They lost to Austria, and the wheels could soon come flying off. I think it's fair. So I think it's important that they do make a good start at this tournament. We'll move on now to the 3rd team in the group. That's Czech Republic. Do you want to talk us through them, Matt, as well? I think most people would agree it's between them and Turkey for 2nd in this group. How do you think they're fair?
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. I'm quite a big fan of this Czech Republic team. But again, you have to just have some reservations about them as well. They weren't very good in qualifying, it's fair to say. They were 2nd to Albania in their qualifying group. They're level on points, but head-to-head, they lost 3-0 in Tirana, so that led them to go through in 2nd place. They were 4 points clear of Poland, although anyone who watched our preview of Poland don't think much of them really at the moment. So it wasn't an impressive qualifying campaign. Now, despite qualifying, the manager at the time actually decided to stand down because he faced a lot of heat from the public there, Yaroslav Silavi, and he decided to hand in his resignation in November. So what you have is a situation where you've got a manager taking him into the tournament who's only currently, as we speak now, overseeing 2 games. So does he know his best team would be a concern for me. Hadek, he's a national hero over there, who's Czech Player of the Year twice in the 1980s, a 60-year-old wily operator. But for anybody coming into a team, 2 games is no time really to get your head around what formation you want to play, what your best team is. In his first game, we saw a 3-4-1-2. In the second one, we saw a 4-2-3-1. So he doesn't even know whether he wants to play with a back 3 or a back 4 at the moment. Now, these 2 friendlies they've got coming up are going to be a lot more indicative of what we can expect in terms of a lineup. But Hadek is he's vastly experienced. He spent a lot of his managerial career in the Middle East. He did have a brief spell in charge of the Czech Republic in 2009, so he'll be relishing a crack at this job. And I think when you have a national hero take charge of the national team, it commands a certain level of respect from the players. Even though they might not remember him playing themselves, their fathers will remember this guy as a legend. And I think instantly you command respect from a group there. So I don't worry about any bad noises coming out of the camp or anything like that. It's just literally going to be whether he can assemble the pieces of the puzzle quickly enough to get them playing good football. In terms of key players, Patrick Schick is probably the name that everyone remembers from Euro 2020. He was joint top scorer alongside Cristiano Ronaldo with 5 goals. Remarkable, really. Nobody would have had him anywhere near that at the start of the tournament. It was a real breakout tournament for him. And he was brilliant in that tournament, a real range of goals. You might remember him scoring from his own half against Scotland at Hampden Park. Some cracking goals in the knockout stages as well. The Czechs actually got to the quarterfinals of that tournament, only losing 2-1 to Denmark. So that was a fantastic tournament for them. They have a rich history in this tournament. Obviously won it when as Czechoslovakia. They've been to the final as the Czech Republic. So, they're not going to be scared of these knockout games should they get there. And I think that tournament pedigree and tournament experience could be crucial against what I just described as a young Turkey side. That could be the difference between these two potentially, because there isn't a lot to separate them. But just going back to Schick, unfortunately, he's had horrendous injury issues since Euro 2020, which is possibly the reason he hasn't kicked on with his club career. He's still at Bayer Leverkusen. Obviously, Bayer Leverkusen are now a fantastic, unbeaten Bundesliga winners. But, at the time, you would have looked at him at Bayer Leverkusen and thought, okay, maybe he's going to get a big move to the Premier League. Maybe he's going to go to a Bayern Munich. He had a host of suitors after the last Euros, but he's missed over a year of football across 3 different injuries. Real problems with his adductors, has kept him out twice. Really sad, really, because he had the world at his feet before he had these injury problems. He's just got back fit. He's been fit since January, which is promising, and he scored 13 goals in all competitions for Bayer Leverkusen in that second half of the season. So if he arrives and he's fit, he's pivotal to this side, and he's as good a striker as he's only maybe Harry Kane in terms of an out-and-out number 9. I would say is more effective. Obviously, Schick won't quite have the same caliber of players around him, but he can make things happen from anywhere. He's a confident finisher, powerful holding up the ball, very good passer. So yeah, he's a real asset to this side. Other recognisable names: Thomas Souček of West Ham. Very, very calming influence in the middle of the park, puts himself about, very physical. He'll be a leader in this side as well. And they have a really solid back line as well, not filled with superstars, but really solid, efficient, as you would kind of expect from a Czech Republic side. So yeah, there's a lot to like about this team. As I say, it's just the uncertainty for me over the manager, how quickly he's going to settle on his formation and whether they can hit the ground running. It might not actually be a bad thing that they play Portugal in their first game, because it's not the end of the world if they lose that. It gives Hadek a little bit of a chance to float around with some new formations. But equally, if you have a demoralising defeat, then it's trouble ahead. I actually see this panning out as both Czech Republic and Turkey beating Georgia, losing to Portugal, and then having a sort of winner takes all game in the last match. Of course, 3rd and 3 points may well be enough to get through anyway, but you want to, seize the initiative, don't you? So that's going to be a good game to look forward to if it does pan out like that. And there's definitely a lot of teams I'm less keen on than the Czech Republic, put it that way.
Yeah, I think they're similar to a few sides we've discussed in the videos that we've filmed so far in terms of operating as a unit, not overflowing with individual talent like a Hungary, like a Slovenia. But that sometimes, that we've seen, like you mentioned, that Belgium side, they've had all these great individuals over the last 10 years, and haven't been able to click well as a team. And it looks like Czech Republic have got a system there. Like you said, they've got a few players that stand out, like Patrick Schick, but they gel well together as a unit. Now, hopefully for their sake, that they can settle on a system to give them the best possible chance in this tournament. We'll move on now to the final team of the group. I think we've both hinted already that we feel this side is the weakest of the 4. It's Georgia. One name that stands out for me is Kavica Kvaratskhelia at Napoli. I think that's the one that most people will be familiar with, Matt. But do you want to educate us on their side as a whole and how you expect them to fare at Euro 2024?
Yeah, well, what an achievement for Georgia to qualify for Euro 2024. Really should be hailed and not overlooked, because they finished. They're a small nation, an emerging nation. Still relatively in their infancy on the European and international stage. Their qualifying campaign didn't go well. They actually finished 4th out of 5 in their group on 8 points from 8 games. So a lot of people scratching their heads thinking, well, why are they here? That's thanks to the backdoor route that's now been brought in via the Nations League, and they performed really admirably in their Nations League group. That got them a spot in the playoffs, where they were obviously coming in unfancied off the back of some mediocre qualifying results, but they managed to get through. They did it. They beat Greece in their final qualifier to seal their first place at a major tournament. And it was a penalty shootout victory. And I don't want to do them a disservice here, but it was a very cagey contest. Greece were the better side, wasted a few chances. Georgia held on for penalties, and they held their nerve for penalties. And that should be, hailed, because that is a serious achievement for this group of players. There's not a lot of star quality in this group. You quite rightly point out that they do have one sort of talismanic figure in Kvaratskhelia, also known as Kvaradonna to Napoli fans. Absolutely iconic status he holds there in Naples, having helped them bring Serie A home for the first time in many, many years last season. He's not had as great a season this time around, it should be said. He does blow a little bit hot and cold, but at his best, he's magical. A player that Jurgen Klopp once described after he sort of dismantled his Liverpool team as a mercurial talent. So, that's high praise from someone like Jurgen Klopp. There will be an onus on Kvara to provide all the sort of creativity for this team. And I think that's difficult at the highest international level. When you only have one player that you're focused around, it's very easy for teams to double up or triple up on him. And I expect some rough treatment of Kvara. I mean, I'm thinking about him and Pepe squaring up in Portugal versus Georgia. And, you can imagine how that's going to be played out. Not to say that he doesn't have the talent to sort of, cause problems for these defenders. And I think he'll rise to the challenge. He's a very proud Georgian. He's spoken many times about putting Georgia on the map, how much it would mean to him to get Georgia to a major tournament. So, he's going to elevate his game here. He's going to be determined to make sure that they make the most of their platform here. But I just look at the squad, and I just, where they're playing their club football, and it just doesn't mirror up to the 3 opponents in their group, unfortunately. And, I think we're going to see Georgia very much how they played the Greece game. They're going to be playing for low-scoring, tight, defensive displays, hoping they can maybe nick a set piece or a moment of inspiration from Kvaratskhelia. You'd love to see them have their moment. Even if that moment is a goal against Portugal, or grinding out a draw against somebody to get their first point, but realistically, it's hard to see much beyond that. And I've said in a lot of these groups that the 4th place team, can exceed expectations. I don't think Georgia can, unfortunately. So I've got them finishing rock bottom. But I mean, what a great achievement to get here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, we like to see the smaller sides do well. I remember Iceland, how well they did in previous tournaments. But yeah, it is hard to see Georgia doing something here. We'd all love to see that. You mentioned that you'd have them finishing bottom. We'll move on now to our predicted standings from this Group F. As you can see, we've both gone with Portugal, slightly different who we think will come in second and third, but Georgia at rock bottom. Do you want to talk us through your predicted there, Matt? What you predicted there, sorry.
Yeah. Well, like I've suggested throughout, I see it as a bit of a toss-up for second between Turkey and the Czech Republic, as I think most people will. I'm just leaning towards the Czech Republic just because of experience, really. I think the Turkey side has probably got more natural talent in forward areas, aside from Schick, obviously. But, the 2 young guys, possibly out wide or in attacking midfielder, are fantastic talents. But I just worry about experience at tournament level. I feel like the Czechs could really grind that game out, maybe a 1-0 win. But look, as long as they both beat Georgia, and they'll be conscious of goal difference as well against Georgia, you're thinking, okay, this could 3 points with a +3 goal difference should get us through. So, I expect both teams to be going for it against Georgia, and Georgia looking to frustrate. So they might not be great games for the neutral to watch, but very important games for fans of the Czech Republic and Turkey. And yeah, Portugal, look, I don't know if Portugal are going to get 9 points out of 9 here. I could definitely see them drawing with one of the two second or third place sides, as well as they've been in qualifying. These are dangerous games against Czech Republic and Turkey. That 2-0 loss to Slovenia does, serve as a reminder that Portugal do have some flaws. But look, you'd be surprised if they don't get sort of 7 points, 6 points minimum. And that'll be enough to get them through in top spot, I think. And yes, sadly for Georgia, I've got them finishing bottom. I'd be surprised if they get a point. And as we'll come on to my best bets, maybe more extreme than that without giving it away just yet.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there as well. It's a toss-up between second and third between Turkey and Czech Republic. I just thought Turkey's stronger qualifying campaign, coupled with a bit of a weaker show from Czech Republic, swayed me. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Czech Republic come in at second. I'd love to see Georgia do something special, but as we spoke about just then, it's not really something that I can see happening. And I think you agree there, Matt. We'll move on as well to your best bets. You hinted at it there. Do you want to talk us through the four on the screen? We try and do one for each team.
Yeah, well, I'll start with Georgia, seeing as we've just discussed them there. Georgia at the bottom there, and this is just looks way too big a price for me. I'm not saying that it's going to come in, but I mean, how can you resist a little go on this? Georgia not to score a goal, 12-1. We've just said that they'll be playing three far superior opponents. Even their qualifying playoff against Greece was 0-0. So they're not exactly a prolific side. And, I just think Turkey and Czech Republic are both coming into that game against them thinking, okay, this is the game we have to win and win comfortably to make sure that we go through. So, whereas sometimes you may get a free hit in your last fixture, I don't really see that happening for Georgia because they're going to be playing Portugal, and even a rotated Portugal side should have too much for Georgia, let's be honest. So I think the order of the fixtures hurts them. Because you've got two teams taking it very seriously, followed by the strongest last. So yeah, I thought 12-1 on them not to score. Look, I don't want to see that happen for any team because it's a shame, but it's just too big. It's way too big. So I have to back that. Portugal, I wasn't mad keen on any bets for Portugal, to be honest, but I was thinking, where do I realistically see them falling short? And I think, a run to the semi-finals is quite plausible. I think, I'm talking about tight games against top level opposition, maybe being their undoing. If there was a play Germany in a semi-final, I think that might be where they get found out there, just because of it being a hostile atmosphere. Germany will have, if they are still in the tournament at this stage, will have played their way into the tournament. And should be like up and running firmly. And I think you may come down to a managerial battle there of Julian Nagelsmann versus Roberto Martinez, where I would certainly give Nagelsmann the edge tactically. But that is a little bit of a stretch because a lot can happen between the groups and the semi-finals. So I wouldn't go mad on that, but that's just where I kind of see them going. I hinted at it with Turkey. Arda Guler, I think there's going to be a lot of focus around the young guy. Can he handle the pressure? Everything at Real Madrid, 5 goals in 5 games at the end of the La Liga season suggests he can. Like I said, no standout striker for Turkey here, with Cenk Tosun probably likely to lead the line. So an emphasis, similar to what I said with Germany in Group A, an emphasis on the attacking midfielders to chip in with the goals. Yildiz, the Juventus player I referenced, is 12-1 as well. So, you could split stakes on those two, and I think you'd be in a fairly strong position there. And then the Czech Republic, just because I've got them edging out Turkey, to finish on 6 points is 11-2. I think, I think it'd be a stretch to say they beat Portugal. I think Portugal's front line will have a bit too much for them, but I can see them winning their other 2 games. So yeah, 11-2 would be a medium confidence shout for me. But my best bet on there would be the Georgia bet. I just think it's too big, and I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, I could see you getting a good run for that 12-1.
Yeah, I agree. Some strong analysis there, Matt. I agree with everything that you said. I think the numbers on the screen there too good to turn down for some of them, particularly that Georgia one. That does conclude our preview for Group F. As I said, it's the final group stage preview now that we'll be filming. All the other 5 are over on the channel. You can go and check them out, get involved. Let us know how you think each of the sides will fare in each of the individual groups. We will be producing a lot more preview content ahead of the tournament start over on our website as well, oddsnow.com. We produced individual team guides for all of the 24 teams participating in Germany. You can find those over on under the tips and insights section on oddsnow.com. We will also link in the individual team guides for the 4 teams discussed here today. We thank you for watching. Like the video, subscribe if you've enjoyed the content. There's more to come across a whole multitude of sports over the coming weeks and months. I thank you as well, Matt, for your time today and for the time that you've put into all these videos we've done so far. Hopefully there'll be more coming soon. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you in the next one.